Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing today on a cold Friday night? So, welcome everybody. Penny Van, we got Gary. Hopefully, they got the Rebecca's in here, so we know we got the tow truck. So that's good. So, Stingray, oh, is he in here tonight? Interesting. So, what are y'all up to?
Been behaving.
What's this?
It's so hot. Mucking around doing the crime show. That was a bit hairy. But I think it's important times at the moment regarding our new changes of energy and everything coming in. So we need to review our protection. And we're going to discuss cleansing and clearing, which houses, energy, entities, land, all that. Hey, you're Michelle.
All right, so I hit the wrong button. But anyways, I got an announcement to make. So if y'all noticed, today I put out something that's on the 21st of this month. It's on a Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The show, right, that we talked about. What's it called? What's it called?
Started with S.
Isn't it the Pulse?
Yes, Pulse. Doesn't start with S.
Pulse has been born. So we got a new addition to the family. It's going to be very interesting. She's very well known on the West Coast. So now this show, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be very unique. We're going to be unfiltered and uncensored. So we're not talking language. We're not talking nasty stuff. We're just saying it's unscripted. So if you want to call in about your relationship and talk about a soapbox, we're going to have at it. If you want guidance or a counselor, we're going to talk about it.
Great idea.
We're going to talk about current events, and we're also going to talk about what's going on in the entertainment business. And it's just going to be a soapbox, right? Now, it's also going to come with a twist. So you got to keep a straight face during the show at one point or another. So I don't know how we're going to do this. So we actually put this show together. Very interesting because we talked about this off the air and people gave me some good insight. And I was like, well, I don't know. I got to find certain people to do this. And so I think I found the people. So we're going to give it a whirl. But for example, I want you all to keep a straight face, right? Are you ready? I don't want you all to laugh. Can you do it?
Try.
All right. What did the policeman say to his belly button? You're under a vest.
We're going to need a lot of help.
All right, you're not supposed to laugh.
I know.
Well, you did. You snorted and laughed.
I can't help it.
And you went red and you blushed.
Why did Billy throw a clock out of the window?
You wanted to see time fly.
Right. I knew Michelle would get that one. Now, what do lawyers wear to court?
No.
Lawsuits.
What? Lawsuit?
Lawsuit.
That's not even funny. Stop.
All right,
I'm laughing at you, not the joke. What have you been on tonight?
Okay. Here's another. Here's another. Hold up. Let me get my composure. Hey, Chanel. Okay. All right. Let's try this again. Don't laugh.
Oh,
no.
Why did the robber take a bath? Because he wanted to make a clean getaway.
I want what you're on.
You're very good at keeping a straight face.
No, you mentioned it.
Yeah, but
laugh. All right. All right. Let's just one more. All right. Get your composure. Look at Leon. Oh my God, Michelle, your poker face. Okay. All right. What did one toilet say to the other toilet?
Toilet.
Toilet.
The other toilet.
Yeah.
I
You
can
look,
only imagine.
What? Excuse me?
you look flushed.
Oh my God.
All right, last one.
Thank God.
Last one. All right.
I'm just laughing at you, not your jokes. They're terrible.
Last one. All right, here we go.
Last one.
All right. What do you call a belt with a watch on it? A waste of time.
Oh my! I don't know how you. The only one I know is how do you start a teddy bear race? Ready, Teddy, go!
I can't do this with you all.
No way!
I can't do it.
You need better jokes. They're terrible.
They gotta be clean.
Yeah, flush.
The toilet's not clean.
I thought you were going to say a raw flush, or
Anyways,
The funny part is your face, and you're laughing. It's like hysterical.
I mean, the look on your all's faces are priceless.
Well,
Is that
don't
why you did it? Oh, adore.
That's funny.
it is.
So, anyways,
I'm still on
I
ka-ching.
didn't get the joke, Jean, in my family.
Yeah, not
You can tell, right? Yeah.
I'm pretty useless at jokes.
Well, anyways, I'm just warming up.
I can't wait.
I can't either. Here am I trying to be serious.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You're giving Beetroot a run for its money right now.
Mm-hmm.
so we're gonna try something new, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see how it goes. But yeah.
It'll be brilliant. Card for the day.
Unbelievable. Well, it's like, is she in here tonight?
Rebecca?
No. All right. So that's like the other night we had black-eyed children. And I was in the middle of in a deep thought and talking. And somebody's like, well, I'll make them a salad. What the hell you mean you make them a salad?
I heard that. I thought, hello, I've just moved planets again.
But you want some blue cheese?
Yeah. He's you know. I know.
Black-eyed children's going to come to my house and want to make them a damn salad. Hello, Barb.
I'd be getting, our little boom boom friends
So,
as a welcoming committee.
You don't miss the jokes. You have to go back and watch the jokes. But I did. I took everybody's comments and put them in the box and shook them and try to see what we can do. Hey, Squatch hollering. Or Squatch and holler. Yeah. I had to read that twice. All right. So what are we going to do tonight, you say?
Well, first we'll have the card. Today I went for the Mayan cards. I thought something different, and it's not as long, and I can try and concentrate. This one is darkness. It's a Mayan one.
Well, hell, that's a good way to start the show.
Correct.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Neither of us can sing. We better not sing, Grizzly. Okay. So this one, night was a time when one's soul went wandering during sleep, exposing it to danger, Grizzly. It was a time when the spirits were active and not all of them were good spirits. The Maya believed that dreams were the memory of night's wanderings and were an indication of the spirits that were encountered during sleep. It's a time of spiritual closeness and openness. Darkness can hide much that is wrong. There's duality, spirituality, and separation. So that's appropriate for what we were going to do with our cleansing and clearing, because David is going to I can't speak. David's going to discuss cleansing using rods, and we were going to follow up and see if everyone's okay with their dowsing. If there are any questions with their first dowsing.
I hope he brings his borax.
Well, no.
I was gonna get mine from out underneath the kitchen sink and bring it in as well.
Then he couldn't talk during the whole damn show, and I'm like, what the hell? Everybody in the comments are like, are you all right?
Sorry, Cath. I'll behave. I will behave. I will behave.
I can't. So, I don't know how you can.
I mean, I cannot believe. He did that. I wasn't like, what the hell?
I know. But it does work. A lot of people use that.
Hey, a lot of people do, you don't see me sucking on a battery. So
no, me either. But I know people that have sulfur in honey and they swear by it. Like sulfur.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But I suppose it's like charcoal, like to get infections and things out. And a friend of mine's got a horsey, Michelle, and it's had all the skin ripped off the front part of his leg, horsey's leg.
What are you?
The horse's leg, all the skin came off the horse's leg. He got caught in the fence. So they wrap it with honey, and then they get a baby's nappy and put the nappy around the honey and tight, and it sucks out all the bad things. By the end of the week, all the, there's no infection, no crawlies or anything like that.
Manuka honey.
He said it didn't matter what honey.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, because I said with the Manuka that my daughter has to have that because of the voice. They all say the honey's good for singing.
Yeah, well, it's an antibacterial. Yeah.
They found out in America the honey on the shelf's not real honey. It's artificial honey, and people are throwing it.
No, that's why you're supposed to get the Manuka. So
yeah.
Hey, Virgil, welcome.
$90 a jar.
Yeah, Penny Van's talking about the salad too. I couldn't believe it.
No, me either. Like, howdy.
So that stirred up some comments that night. Then she bounced. I was like, oh, I felt so. I had to message her after the show. I'm like, all right. She had an emergency. I was like, oof. So.
Yeah, Virgil. Was he the one that was on the getting rescued in the floodwaters?
I don't know who was. I missed it. I couldn't see. I couldn't find my hanky. I couldn't see the computer screen. My sides were hurting.
Same here.
And Mark turned red. That was fun. I had to go back and watch that, just see him turn red.
How I had to go down the coast and pick up the Grizzly van. My poor Mark had to listen to me for another 3 hours in that van. But anyway, I drove it back. Nothing happened. It was all good fun.
Well, that's good.
No, didn't see any yowies. That was a pleasant surprise. But yes, so everything's happening at the moment. From what I can understand, and the simplest way I can explain it is we're between creations energetically. I like to describe it as the ferry coming into the wharf, big ferry, sticks itself into reverse and mushes up all the sand. Everything gets all stirred up. To me, I feel we're in that phase at the moment, and everything's chaotic. The sand's all swishing about, and there's lessons in there that before the sand settles, I think it might be a good idea for some people, if they have got something inside that they haven't spoken about ever, I think it might be a good time to spill before we get into this new creation and things settle down. There's a lot of people out there at the moment we've also got to be careful of, trying to group a lot of us to help with the new creation. Be very careful who you're getting mixed up with. You don't know what's going on. There's a lot of trickery going on, a lot of deceit, a lot of games, all to do with our new creation that we're moving into. Another reason to keep your protections up at all times, be really careful what you're doing, and always go to the layers. Like last night, I watched this, the tail end of a serial killer, American one. And this guy made out that he had split personalities. So when they first got him, he was this lovely, meek, good looking, lovely kind of suck in. And then they got all these psychiatrists and hypnotherapists and everyone in to figure out what was going on. The hypnotherapist he found that he took him right back to childhood and found him he was under a bed, and he was terrified of his mother. His mother was beating him and all this sort of stuff. And so the hypnotist thought, yes, 100%, this guy's got multiple personalities. He thought that was when he split into the other personality when he was a little boy at 4 years old. Then the other psychs came in, and, they did polygraphs. They did all these tests, all different ones. And one guy said, nah, that's a fake, because he tried to hypnotize this guy again. And he was too active in all his expressions, and he was too quick at doing things that the hypnotist had kind of semi-programmed. And then the guy that was faking that he had multiple personalities started to get angry, because he realized that he wasn't sucking them in anymore. So then they switched, and the guy came clean. And then he went, oh, yeah, it was my cousin. So he then dragged in the cousin, blamed the cousin for assisting in all these multiple terrible things this guy did. And in the end, they didn't know who to charge. Like, do they charge the split personality? Do they charge the guy? Did they charge the cousin? It was a mess, big mess.
So with split personalities, all right? So let's take a look at that.
Yep.
So when it comes to crimes and murders specifically, when that first got introduced back in the late 70s, early 80s, a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon because they didn't know how to identify that on paper, diagnose that properly. So a lot of people use that to try to get out of crimes. A lot of people that commit those crimes, people realize that they watch crime shows and picked up on things and learn how to do certain techniques, and they use that in their defense when they're caught, or how to commit crimes. A lot of things were banned on the internet during those years because people can look up things they shouldn't look up, how to do things and get away with stuff, right? Yep. Example, certain cookbooks and so forth to make certain things. So the government banned that over here and monitored it. So with psychologists and doctors that study this field for 20 or 30, 40 years, they went back, and especially the FBI and some of the top-notch doctors that writes in the medical journal for the world, for these top leading other doctors, compile their notes, and they study these serial killers and people that commits these crimes, especially the heinous ones, right?
Yeah.
And they dissected each person, and they go back and they look at their childhood, how they were born. Were you in poverty? Was you beaten? Was your parents married? I mean, they go through the checklist. Now, do I believe you are a product of your environment? Yes, I do. Twofold. You get to an age where you know right from wrong. Some people I always say birds of the feather flock together, right? Guilt by association. A lot of people get under that boardwalk or under that umbrella.
Yeah.
But these other people learn how to manipulate the system. So these doctors and these psychiatrists with all these years experience, and especially studying these cases, figured out, and it's correct, Squatch Holler, how to make a test, not an aptitude test, but it's almost like a personality test to decipher if you're telling the truth or not, right? So a lot of companies went to that in the early 2000s. They would pre-screen you and they would ask you certain questions to see if you would tell the truth. And not only tell the truth, to see if you would be consistent with your answers throughout, whether there be 50, 100, 200, 300 questions. And if everybody stops and think, they still do that to this day. And they ask you general questions. Some of them are moral questions, right? Some of them are ethical questions. Some of them are right and wrong. What would you do? How would you handle? And some of them will go against companies' policy or morals, right? Morals. So they
Yep.
took all that stuff and they compiled it. So they almost got it bulletproof. But Michelle's an expert. You're an expert. You're for the defense. You're for the prosecutor, right? So they're always going to contradict each other. So now it's going to be based off who has the most expert testimony. They either go by cases or years and experience practicing, right? So that's twofold, because if Michelle's got an extra 10 years on you and she's very good and in front of a jury, they're going to lean towards her because the way she talks and the way she handles herself compared to you. So now you got doubt. So it's very flip-flop, and it's very interesting to see people that get caught up. What's so funny?
That's like the same, Grizzly, when you like the psych tests. The psych tests can be addressed to certain categories.
It
so
can.
that if you've got one psych test coming into a front loader job, or as compared to a teaching psych evaluation, that the questions are set up to zone into particular needs, so that they can cut out the other traits that they don't want. There was a lot of conjecture about all of those psych tests. When I did criminal psychology, that was half of the year, because of them changing the questions to direct them at certain people. And then when you get into court, like you say, they clash.
That is correct. So it's twofold, right? So, and I'm not going to say what company. They went to that, I'll just call it aptitude test for now.
Oh, yeah.
And they came to us and they're like, take it. In management, I think 10 of us or 9 of us, all of us failed that test. And the company was like, holy cow. We paid like $35,000 just to get this. I think it was 40 questions drawn up. So they had to go back and redo it. And we were like, damn, we wouldn't get hired if we had to take this test. Yeah. And we were top notch, right? So they had to go back and redo it, because what it does, that test weeds out a lot of fakes, wannabes, and people that BS on the resumes. Yeah. So, and it also tests your morals. And you got to be careful, because whether you answer yes or right or whatever one way, they'll ask you that same question 6 different ways without you knowing it. And you answer 6 different ways too, right? And you'll flunk it. So you're not consistent. So now you're a compulsive liar and you're just trying to satisfy the test, and you'll get caught. So it is made to identify you. So the companies, I applaud them for what they're doing. But here's the problem with that, right? You and Michelle, you are terrible on paper, but Correct. You get in front of somebody, you can sell yourself. You're a people person, right? So, and that's a problem with a lot of people. they don't look good on paper, but they get in front of somebody and they ask questions about what's on the resume, and they can explain it.
Yeah.
But if I don't like what I'm looking at, I'm not going to give you the opportunity to even take the test or even give you an opportunity to get your foot in the door. I'm going to put it in the no pile and go on.
Yeah.
So,
like what you see on the outside is not what you see on the inside.
That is correct.
And like, you know how there's that TV show on where they select the jurors, and they do the exact same thing we're talking about now, and then they cut out the ones that, you know, they don't think will be successful to get a conviction.
Right.
Do they really do that?
Yes, they do. And they'll ask you personal questions, how you feel, and everything else. So when they do jury selection, right, first off, they'll send you a notice in the mail and let you know that you've been selected. And sometimes they'll have answers, a questionnaire to answer, and you have to submit that back. And based on that is whether you have to show up to the poll or not. Or some municipalities will have you just show up and you just have to do the interview process. And it's terrible. So yes, they do. Depends on where.
I've forgotten what I was going to say then.
So, where were we headed with all of that?
The person that was committing the crimes, they don't know how to charge them. So,
I was still on the ferry. Sorry.
So when you charge somebody with a crime, right, you charge the individual, not the personality. You look at Lorraine Warren and Ed when they did that case where the devil made me commit the crime, right? Where that kid got possessed by the devil and he committed murder. They were trying to prove in a court of law that he was possessed by the devil, that he didn't deserve to be in jail. He deserved to be in a hospital. Well, and nobody's never tried that before. And look how many people has tried that case with other people being possessed. So it's just, you know, people take advantage of the system.
And also like I've got fibromyalgia, so I heat up. So and sweat, you know, perspire, whatever the correct word is, perspire. So if I've got a policeman, for example, asking me a question, all of a sudden I've got no control over what happens. The body heats up. I start perspiring. I go bright red. But they think I'm lying.
That could be false positives, an indicator that you're not being truthful. Yes.
Yeah.
But once again, if you got a good investigator, right, and they get your baseline, and once they get your baseline, no matter what you do, they will know if you're telling the truth or not. So, yes.
Yeah. So that's why we were talking about trickery and how complicated it is to see what's really going on. And the same goes with the cleansing. You know, like we do the same rules apply. You have your permission, your privacy rules, you protect up, everything's the same way. Even if you're doing land, like someone asked me a question once, do I ever go out and not find water? And straight away I said no. That came across as egotistical. It didn't. The reason I answered no straight up like that is because I'm not going to go out there unless I do my research first. I'm not going to organize trucks and drills and pipes and all of that unless I'm fine to begin with at home. So if we were to go out and cleanse land, I would check it out.
So what did you learn then?
Well,
and this is where I teach.
Not to waste my time.
No, learn how to deliver your message.
Oh, I'm not very good at that.
So when somebody asks you a question, you say, before I start, this is what I do, A, B, C, D. And these are the necessary steps to get to that goal. But for me to get there, this is what I have to do before I get there to see if it's worth it. See, once, and this is where I tell people when you investigate into the paranormal or you are in the Bigfoot world. So, because people will go out and collect evidence, right? And they'll submit pictures into a Facebook group and they're like, Bigfoot done this, Bigfoot done this. And everybody else is like, how in the hell do you know Bigfoot done that? Well, they're not telling the story. So, for example, I go into an area that I know Bigfoot's there because I have proven documentation when it comes to tracks, tree tree breaks, stick formations, X's, and everything else. During my time in the same area, this is what I came across of is this evidence that's possibly Bigfoot related. See, once you explain the story, right,
Yeah.
now you got a backstory to it. Now
Yeah.
somebody's like, well, maybe Bigfoot, that maybe that is a possibility that Bigfoot's done that. And I
Yep.
help people do that because a lot of people, when they submit that evidence to groups, they're overexcited, but they're not telling people why they think that is. And that's where you got to give that backstory. And it's
Yeah.
all it is your delivery method.
Yeah. I'm not very good at delivering.
Well, unless somebody teaches you or explains it to you, you don't know.
Yeah.
So
And I get really nervous. Like, I still get nervous before every show. Like, it
Hey,
takes a while to settle
why?
down.
Why?
Well, I don't talk to anyone in real life, and then I come on here. What? You know, I'm shy, like, in real life, and then I come on here and I blab on. But I'm getting better at it, like, because
You know, so here's the deal, and everybody says this to me. You have to practice, and I'm like, well, that's not necessarily true, and they look at me funny. I'm like, what do you mean? If you don't know how to practice, and if you're practicing the wrong way, you're never going to get better.
Yeah.
You have to learn what you're doing, then practice. Because
Yeah.
then practice will make perfect, right?
Yeah.
But if you're doing something wrong and you're practicing the wrong way, you're never going to improve.
No, I like to
So
be like, I'm happy when people say, you know, you've made a mistake. I'll admit to it. Like, you know, I'd rather admit to the mistake straight away so it can be fixed quickly. I shut down the whole of one of the insurance companies one day over here, Australia wide. And I just went straight there, said, yep, this is what happened, blah, de blah. Because I was updating the security system, and somebody upstairs in the control area didn't listen or didn't look at the timetable of when I was doing the upgrade. They had it live. So when I did my upgrade, the whole thing blew up because they weren't shut off into, you know, segments. I just
right.
admitted it straight away. Sorry, it was my fault. Whole of Australia went down. That same
That
day,
happens.
it does. That same day, I had 6 computers. I started off early in the morning, 7:30, started work. By the end of lunchtime, I'd gone through 6 computers. The last one started with smoke pouring out of it. And they said, oh, Matheson, I think you should go home for the day. I said, hooroo, straight away. I was out of there. But, you know, there's some things you can't control, but generally you can. I know.
Well, you know, and I tell people that the things you cannot control, you learn from, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I learned a lot early on in life. And when I say that, I watched everybody and I watched what they did. And the reason why I did that, because I knew that there would be a time where I'm going to be up to that batter plate and it's going to be time for me to swing. So if I watch everybody and learn from their mistakes, I won't make the same. And
Yeah.
that's what I did.
Yeah.
So hopefully it helps people.
I kind of watched, but didn't get involved. But, you know, I put it in the memory bank. The criminal record. Is Virgil a naughty boy, Grizzly?
Who knows? The criminal record doesn't mean you're a bad guy. It just means that you haven't learned from your mistakes in life. That's all.
I saved this bloke once. I took him to the hospital, and then I took off in the car. And about an hour later, ew, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? The person that I had in the back of the car had delivered their whole burglary bounty in the back of my car. I had no idea. So I have a record because of that. I saved the guy's life, but legally, I was done for possession. You know? So think carefully next time you save someone.
You just You just attract trouble, Cath. Just admit it. You were just an
And there are some people that are
I'm a
just that
magnet.
way, that just no matter how many rights they take, they still get the wrong turn.
That's moi.
Hey, Julianne, welcome. Nice to have you. Good evening or good morning, wherever you're from.
So going back to your fairy story about the
Yes.
fairy coming in and everything getting swished around and et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
From what I can see going on out there is that anyone that's holding on to fear or anger are getting slammed. Absolutely slammed.
Yeah.
In so many ways. It's horrible to watch, but they're pretty much unsavable, because the more that happens to them, the angrier they get and the more frustrated they get and the more they lash out, and then the universe goes, kapow, here, have some more, have some more. And it's like I can't even watch. It's like a train wreck.
It is.
You know,
It's like
and you can't say anything to them.
Yeah. It's like watching and coming up for air and then getting dumped again by another wave.
And a lot of them are highly spiritual people, like well-known people in the spiritual industry as well.
Yeah.
Do you think that some people have to have that in their life to survive?
Drama.
Some do.
Yeah.
So
it's a way of getting attention that they don't. They're attention seeking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about, excuse me, on another show. I don't know if it was this one or not, but the doctors has proven that stress and anger produces cancer cells. So, and people don't realize that. And I tell people, no matter what somebody's done to you, don't hold a grudge. Let it roll. Life's too short. And people wrong you. Julia Ann, has the energy been really extremely weird the last couple of days?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, heavy, oppressive, very oppressive.
Yeah, and so draining. And 1 minute, you feel super sad. Yep. It's erratic. It's like that sand being mangled up when the ferry comes in, and it's going to take a little time to settle, but you need to really have your floaters on before you settle, in a way. You need a bit of a hand coming down, and grounding, seriously grounding, and just being really careful that a lot of what you see is not it. It's under, because of all the trickery, because the new creation or the new era that we're coming into is
that's not true.
So along this conversation, right, I told somebody today and it puzzled them. And I'll say this, and when I say man, I'm referring to the human race. You tell man there are 300 billion stars, and they believe you. But you tell them that bench has wet paint, what do? They touch it.
They want to test your theory.
Yeah, it's like,
oh, look at
why would you touch it when I just told you the paint's wet?
Yeah.
Now, that makes no sense, ladies and gentlemen. But you stop and think about that and put it in reality in life. And when I said that to that person, they were dumbfounded. And I'm like, are you not understanding what I'm saying? They're like, no. And I'm like, oh, sheesh.
But do you ever try?
So what you're saying, Cath, is that what you're saying? Hi, Brian. What you're saying, Cath, is that you need your floaties on, but even if you're in that vicinity, you're still going to get sand up your nose and in your ears, and probably up your bum crack as well. But,
correct.
So wouldn't it be better not to be in the vicinity at all, not even be in the water?
Sometimes you can't help it. You're in the same waters that other people are in, and you don't know what strings they've got out on their little tentacles. So sometimes you inadvertently can get caught up. This is why it's so very important to always have your protection on before you go anywhere, and whatever you're doing. That came out the wrong way. Sorry about that.
How many people have drowned trying to save somebody that's drowning?
Heaps.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Over
So
here,
put
heaps.
that in perspective when it comes to in real life situations. So and I tell people, you know,
Good point.
if you think somebody's not worth saving, cut them. And
Yeah.
you know, and over the years, people say you have a cold heart, Grizzly. No, it's not.
No, you don't
And
want to
and
go down with them.
and I said this when it comes to relationships, and hear me out on this, right? So you are with somebody, boyfriend, husband, whoever, however you want to call it. I don't care what you do. But when you in that relationship, the first thing you need to do is terminate it. When I mean terminate it, you block that person on all social media, you block that person in your phone. You have no other contact with that person. Because here's what happens every time you get over that person, whether you left or that person leaves you, however it may be, you get over that person, what happens? They call, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. Or they call, they're drunk. Now you're with somebody. Now you're starting to get texts or messages or something, and it just snowballs. Now you got problems. So if you cut it off in the beginning, you don't have any issues. And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand that. Well, I always end on a good note. No, you don't, because that's why you ended. There's a
Yeah.
reason why you're not together. And if you're not together, you need to cut it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that they need to do that until down the road. They're like, I should have done that from the get go.
That's
Why am I
very
going to preach to you if you're not going to listen?
that's very similar to the perp and the vic. The victim will always go back to the perp, you know, because of guilt or whatever games the perp is playing with them. You know, the victim will nearly always go back to the perp unless, like you say, it's cut, completely cut.
Yeah. I mean, if you're
Otherwise,
not with somebody, there's no reason for you to have any communication or any ties. When it's done, it's done. And anybody that knows me, when I say it's done and over with, there is no going back. I do not
yeah,
change my mind. Period.
I
Uh,
I
really
can
and
see
admire
and
that.
that.
I can see that
and you
about
can
you,
ask,
Grizz.
yeah, you can ask my ex-wife on that.
No, I
He's
And
already
admire that.
you
yeah,
already got that mad look in your eye already
yeah.
when you're talking about it.
I do
But what
not play
about the trauma
games when it
bond?
comes to friendships. I do not play games when it comes to relationships. I'll warn you once.
Yeah,
Next time I won't. I'll just cut you. And that's not being rude, ladies and gentlemen. It's understanding that you don't need to deal with drama. You don't need to deal with all that chaos and nastiness. It's just not worth it. You know,
I
it's
yeah,
can
just not.
guarantee you wherever there's a perpetrator and a victim, someone has been a rescuer. So it's always the triangle. And whether you change roles in that, there's always a triangle.
That is
So
correct.
yeah, the perpetrator will pretend, which will make the victim go rescue, and then the victim becomes a rescuer becomes a victim. It goes around and around. But there's a trauma bond that happens with that. And you can't just cut things sometimes when that type of trauma is there without professional help.
yeah.
Well, you heard. Well, you didn't hear, but that the girl that found her friend that was murdered on tonight's show. It took her almost 8 years to get over the trauma, and she's still not cured. Right
No, right.
when she
Yep.
found the body, and you know, people don't understand, right? PTSD or trauma in relationships, and men will do crazy things for love, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking ignorant things.
So
We
are
see
women.
that all the time in crime, murders, missing people. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. Well, I mean, what's going through their head? But it's wild. And you know, for example, and this is sad. A kid, 8 years old, took a gun to school, and they knew he had a gun, and they wouldn't take it away from him because it was in his pants pocket. You know what the principal said? He ain't going to do anything. We're going to wait for the police. Guess what happened? He shot the teacher right there in front of everybody. So that teacher's suing the school district right now. And I was like, are you serious? You worry about a lawsuit for touching an 8-year-old when he's got a gun? And they said, don't worry about it. He's 8 years old. He ain't going to do anything. You got a screw loose, pal.
Exactly. And
So,
all the trauma, you know.
oh, the teacher screwed up.
Yeah.
A door slammed. She loses her stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just real sad. And, you know, people don't use common sense because they're always worried about being sued. man, I would have snatched that kid. I would have threw him against the wall, and I would have pulled that gun out and took everything out, the magazine, the bullets, and everything else till
Yeah.
the police got there. Either that or duct tape the kid's hands. Something.
Yeah. Like I'd be the same. That's why I get into trouble all the time, because I do those sort of things as well. Why allow like heaps and heaps of people to be traumatized and ruined for the rest of their lives if you can stop it there and then and not get hurt, of course, you know? But that's why I get into a lot of trouble.
I was at a restaurant once, and I had my back turned to this family, and you can tell this family was lower class. And no disrespect to anybody for me saying that, but this woman backhanded her child and knocked him out of the booth. I jumped up and I said, your ass is going to jail right now. I locked her ass up.
Good.
She fought me. She went to jail. She got extra charges.
Good.
So, you know, I mean, you don't do that. You know, do I believe in discipline? Absolutely. Do I believe in corporal punishment? Yes. But something like that? No. Absolutely not. I mean, when she, I mean, you heard the crack, and it knocked dishes off the table, and he was out in the aisle. That's how bad and violent it was.
No.
And
I don't like that.
I mean, people were like flipping out in the restaurant because of my actions. I told them to go fly a kite, and I was like, "You want to be next?" I said, "I'll pull my gun out and I'll hold you at gunpoint till my cavalry comes. I don't give a rat's ass." I said, "You're not going to interfere with my business. She's gone. You next? Let's go."
Exactly. I got into big trouble when I first had my little one. Like, I have no experience in babies or anything like that, and we had to go to, you know, you meet up with a play group with all the other women and that. I was old. All the other ones were young, you know, sprightly, the whole bit. Anyway, one day, because I didn't have a vehicle, I had to walk there a long way with the pram to get to this park. Every time I'd get to the park, I'd get there earlier because I've started off early. But this park, I would check and go around the park, you know, first, you know, we're not allowed to say that, you know, injectors. So I'd go all over the park trying to find those before I'd let any of the kids play there. The women are all rocked up. And, you know, I said, you just be careful, you know, there's a lot of these things lying around. Oh, boy, I never heard the end of it. Oh, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You know, and the hats that the kids wear at school, and they've got the strings on them.
Mm-hmm.
I did a full investigation on the weight of those strings to stop kids being, you know, on the play equipment, to test out how much weight they would carry before they would loosen up and not, you know, do the deed. Oh, boy, that was another thing I got into big trouble over. Yeah, these sort of things I don't back down on. If you can stop someone getting hurt and it's an easy thing to do, why not do it? I'm always in trouble.
It's your personal belief. And, you know, when it comes to personal beliefs, I don't condone anybody for what they believe in or anything like that, right? I will never persuade you to change in what you believe in. It's not my style. But I will correct you, not in public, if I think something's wrong and it's going to help you. And if I don't think you're going to heed anything, you're going to continue on your actions, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm just going to let you do your own thing. I'm going my way and just let it roll.
Yeah.
And that's a problem a lot of people can't do, right? And this is where they get into the drama and the backstabbing, the gossip, and everything else. And it's crazy. So it's sad. It really is. And I mean, if you ever go out and look at people in America, for a good example, and watch how people act, it's kind of embarrassing. It really is. You know, I was watching a video before we went live, and I laughed. A guy went by and flipped off a police officer, right, while he was sitting in the middle of the interstate. Freedom of speech, you know, First Amendment. He can do whatever he wants. That's fine. The cop pulls out. He gets behind him. Not even a half mile, he gets pulled over for a traffic infraction. He gets 2 citations. And the guy's like, "You can't write me a ticket. See you in court." You know, he was impeding traffic in his window tint. And the guy was like, "You pulled me over for flipping you off." And he said, "I can care less about the finger. That don't mean nothing to me." He said, "And this is what I got you for. It's on dash cam. I'll see you in court. Here's the documentation." And he walked away, gave him the ticket. And I just laughed. And I'm like, "You actually put that up on for social media for everybody to see how bad you was to prove a point, and you got $400 and something worth in citations for what?" You know, it's ignorant, you know, and it's sad. I'm glad I'm not in it. So that is correct.
And you must let the others in the group think they figured it out themselves.
And Henry, you're right. So I'm very big on NLP, neuro logistic programming, and that was something big back in the day, and it still kind of is to this day. And learn up on it. It's very interesting.
I'm not a fan of that.
A lot of people are not. You know, so when it comes to my toolbox, right, I'm very adverse. I like to learn a lot because you never know what you're going to use in certain situations.
Yeah.
And so I just like to know about it because when somebody asks, you know, what NLP is, I can talk about and explain it.
Yeah, same.
Because a lot of people don't know. But at one time, it was very well known back in the 60s and 70s. So, and it's still used to today.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what it is, ladies and gentlemen, Google it. It's pretty nice, pretty neat.
Yeah, it can be scary if it's used incorrectly because it's implanting.
It can be.
In a sense.
I use it to understand your actions, to pull what you don't remember, what you did and how you did things, like an incident.
Yeah.
So I use it the proper way, not to get you to do something my way.
Yeah.
Or to program you.
And linguistically, right? You in your field, and also, you know, in the crime shows, linguistically, the words are important, you know, because they
really
can
are.
Yeah, because they can trigger you onto different narratives.
Well, you know, that's like the old man. The first time I watched that at the post office, what happened, ladies and gentlemen? A guy thought he was a murder suspect. And years ago, he went to the post office, made a complete butt of himself. I'm talking, he picked up one of their computers and dropped it on the ground because he was mad at the post office over delivery. Was he in the wrong? Absolutely. He was a hothead. But what happened was when he did that, he left the facility. Well, the guy that worked there followed him outside. Now, what was not said is what happened while they were going outside. So the guy that acted up in the post office and broke the postal computer got to the car, pulled out a gun, and put the gun between the guy's eyes. And the guy came forward. He's, "Oh, guy's a hothead. He got in trouble." No, he didn't. He didn't get in trouble for doing that. And the reason why he didn't get in trouble for pulling the gun, because you're not telling the whole story. You're on the news because that happened and you're trying to make him a bad guy. And that's why I try to tell people is that your actions, you're going to have to answer for it in your lifetime. And people don't understand that. And that's very crucial in life. So what you do in your 20s, you will have to answer in your 30s, 40s, or 50s. That will come back and haunt you, whether it's your record, driving record, arrest record, your attitude, your demeanor, because the first time you make that mistake, somebody that does not like you, that you went to school with or college or lived in that neighborhood, is going to be right there in front of that camera to make you look like the worst guy that you are to the whole world. And that's what they're going to do. And that's what they did to him. Now, what he did, was he a bad guy? Yeah, he was a hothead. But what he did, he had an alibi, right? He wasn't in town, allegedly, when the murder happened. He had receipts. He had pictures of the trip with his wife. And he took a polygraph test, which was awesome.
Yeah.
However, because of the stress and everything, and everybody made him to be the bad guy, and everybody thought it was him that killed that principal, allegedly put him into a medical state where he had dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
and he had to go in the nursing home, and he was a vegetable, and that's sad, right? So is he a suspect? We don't know, because now, I mean, like you said, how can you prosecute somebody if he is the actual suspect or the actual murderer? So
he's
unless they have the weapons with the blood and DNA on it, or the clothing he wore, you know, how can you prosecute that? Because they can't interview him anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
So so where do you go with that?
You can't, because there's no capacity. So you can't do anything. And plus, they're in an aged care home or wherever, you know, you've got your dementia people, which is, I reckon that's punishment enough, whether you've done something or not. That's horrific.
Well, and you know, then you look at what he said in front of people at school about him getting right up and him about to lose his job, and the comment, the threat, and something happened to the principal. And the first person everybody's going to point out, he threatened her, and now she's dead.
Yeah.
So how does that make you look? It makes you look like you did it.
Yeah.
So
that's like all these layers. You know, if we're going out cleansing, say we're going out to a paddock, we're going to at home, I'm going to check it out first. But there are so many different layers that you've got to look at. There could have been a cemetery there. There could have been a massacre there. There could be a river flowing underneath. There's so many different technicalities that you're not just doing a straight cleanse. You might hit one, you know, a grave, for example. There might be 3 or 4 in that grave. They may come from different centuries. You have no idea. So, like today on the show, we were asking why I have so much paperwork. That's the reason why, because I have to keep eliminating the grey areas that could make me incorrect. I'm not correct all the time. I don't.
See, people that first tune in didn't know what you were reading. They thought you were reading a script, like a news channel report. That's why I asked to clarify that. Because they don't know your format, and people that watch the show know that you make your own questions. So when you do your dowsing remote viewing, or however you get your information, that there's a format that you use. That's why I wanted you to explain that, especially for the new ones that were tuning in. Because everybody does something different on the crime show, and there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, Russ, welcome. So it's very interesting, right? Christopher was interesting, but it was sad to see everybody's emotions going through that case.
Yeah, it was so full on. Like, you feel sick. You can't help but feel sick. Hey, Russ.
Michelle, what are you thinking of?
I'm just listening. Just listening.
You want another Coke?
No.
Is David here, Grizzly?
Mm-mm. He came in just a second ago and then left.
Oh.
So.
Well, it's the same theory works, like with the cleansing. I still use a format similar to that, so that you can eliminate as many of the possibilities that you may be incorrect as possible. That's why I do so much. Like, to do those crime cases, that takes me, if it's just a fairly straight one, which none of them ever really are, but some of them, you know, they don't want to be found, or there's a privacy issue or an ethical issue, that just a basic will take me about 4 hours. To do any of those other, because I come back and do maybe 3 sessions so that I can verify, or I'll come back and try and annihilate those grey areas. It's the same with the cleansings as well.
Now, when you do your cleansing, and I ask both of you this, how many times do you cleanse your residents?
For mine, I stick up one that lasts, I hope that will last quite a long time. So, and then, but
well,
if
quite a long time is what to you compared to me?
Well, a week. But if anybody comes in and out of the house, I cleanse immediately. But I've got stuff set up in the house so that there should not be any negative energies entering in the first place.
Okay, explain that then.
Which?
What do you have set up?
What do I have set up? Well, as Michelle knows, I'm surrounded by tourmalated quartz all around my house for magnetics.
Do you have it by the door or the entryways or
everywhere? Inside, outside, front door, back door, under the house. Like, I could take you out there, but I might lose the
No,
screen.
you're good. You're good with explaining. It
I
just
have it
gives them a
everywhere.
picture to understand.
Yeah. Then I've got other things set up. Bells. I have bells everywhere. On windows, in case somebody opens a window, I need a racket because I don't have a proper security system. I used to have my dogs, but I don't have them anymore. I have smoky quartz. I've got stones lying around everywhere. I've got eagle feathers, heaps of stuff. I'm right into protection. Always have been since I was little. And then when I lived in Mexico, I was 12 and I was in Castaneda country. And I got right into Castaneda. That's a young age to get into it. And this is why I kind of understand a lot of these entities and trickery and all that sort of stuff. Then I got into existentialism, and it just went from there. I never really fitted in.
Michelle, what about you?
I used to be, I think, slightly paranoid about protection, because I saw a lot of dark stuff. Actually could see it. So I was very, and I used to use selenite a lot, rosemary, selenite, salt. That's gone on to black salt. Black salt's is something that I would use if I was really concerned about demonic stuff. But to be honest with you, I really don't have a lot of interference. And I think someone I know, have known for a long time, who actually was like a spiritual mentor to me, she actually picked it up and she says, wow, you just kind of like, you've gone a bit untouchable, haven't you? And I went, yeah, I think I have, because I stopped worrying about it. I think that was one thing. The fear really attracts stuff. And even if someone comes in and I'm a bit sus about it, I just do my own personal stuff. I don't rely on, sure, I've got the crystals and all the tools around the place, and I change them around constantly. But, I used to have like tourmaline at the front door. I used to be absolutely pedantic about it. But now it's like I watch the signs. If the animals are behaving funny, weird, like out of the ordinary, I'll go testing and looking, or just stop and tune in. And then I might have to do something. I may sage, or, I may just completely open all the doors and windows and, clean. I might do something more. Depends on what it actually is. But I've found that I have less and less and less really bad stuff. And that's a nice feeling, because I don't. And if I get really tired or depressed, I know there's something. I've picked up an attachment, and that could be from going shopping. You can go shopping and you can pick them up in the shopping center because you're not aware, or you're not thinking, or you're thinking of something else, or someone might brush up past you. Sometimes you can feel that too. You can feel people's energy. If you feel someone brush past you and it feels like prickly and sticky, that's like a sure sign that they're carrying a lot of stuff. So you need to, I think I've just noticed what I'm noticing now. It's not so much, I don't rely on the tools so much. It's more like if I become aware, then I'm pretty proficient at going, okay, you're not allowed in my space. You don't have permission. Off you go. Yeah, bugger off. Yeah.
You'll be surprised how many people's never cleansed their home before. I was shocked.
I find the more you trust your intuition and you believe in yourself, the less doubt anywhere around, the less funny business will touch you. Like, I'm the same as you. I don't specifically put stuff there. It's just always there. And I trust that that's always there. But like you say, I can be in the supermarket and there's a line behind you, and I can feel it, and I'll start swishing my back straight away. I know.
You're big on that.
No comment.
Or, I'll go like this. I know. Like a
But
little
sometimes you can feel people. You can actually feel their energy coming, and
Yeah.
they'll come past you, and you go, "Oh, okay, that's very dirty. All right, thank you."
I swish. you know, like a duck underwater, and it swishes its tail underwater, and no one can see what's going on.
But
Only
even
mine-
out, without any tools, not having any tools, you can actually do stuff just by manipulating the energy around you.
Yeah.
Well, we are just energy.
Redeployment. I love that
Mm.
word. Redeployment of energy. You can
Yeah.
make balls, and it's fun.
Although I do have big guns in the toolkit just in case. You never know.
Yes,
But,
same here.
it doesn't pay to play with me in that way. Just put
Yeah.
it that way. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Liana
Yeah.
King, do you believe we're born in this world with attachments from other lives we have lived through the ages? What are your thoughts?
I think some, yes.
Interesting question. I don't know. I think we come in reasonably clean. But you're talking about past life trauma, and that sits in our subconscious. And that is what interferes with us. There has been, yes, some children are being born now that are possessed already. Then that's due to stuff that's the parents have done or generations have done beforehand. Mostly
poisoning,
alcohol, things like that. So yes, it's possible. Probably it's probably more present now if I think about it than before. That's an interesting subject. Really interesting subject.
It is. It's so involved. Like if you bring religion into it, and depending on what kind of activities they believe in, that can just keep coming. Like the CULT stuff. I find most of those people have the attachments already when they're coming through, and then once they're through and they hit a new energy, it's confusing for them, and they want some question, well, why have I been indoctrinated into this all this time, and then they want to get out. But I found, because I've debriefed a few cult people, it's so difficult because of those layers going back down again, the trauma and the fact that they're blinkered, so they don't know that they have attachments because they've always kind of been open, to that indoctrination. But as soon as they come out or go into town or whatever and mix with other people like that aren't into that same mentality, I find that they're an open. They're like a colander, that holes everywhere.
I'd like to believe that it doesn't happen, and that we are born with a fresh start. But having said that, I have seen evidence that isn't always the case. So, which is very sad, because some of those they're not savable.
No, and like you continue those type of issues, you'll find a lot of people they're always blaming themselves for stuff. It's not their fault, they haven't done this. This is just their response to the stimulus they were given in the first place. So it's not their fault. And then when they find out, and you teach them, or help them to forgive, it's wow, like. You can see it coming off their bodies. It's such a relief, that, I didn't know why I was doing this. I didn't know why this was happening to me all the time. Yeah, but they'd already had that attachment that was bringing it in all the time. They didn't know. Like, it was just the way their DNA came through to begin with. So it's like an open target.
Well, these are very complicated. That's a very complicated topic, really. I mean, there could be so many other factors.
Yeah, exactly. That's like with the entities, when you're cleansing. You might be looking at this, like, you know, that healing I had to do in Japan. There was this guy on the corner, and he was making all these car accidents and everything. Everything was going wrong around this corner. Anyway, I found out that the guy that killed him was a real meanie, and he attached to this guy. But then the guy that did the attachment, he passed away and left this guy at the corner who had this like entity still attached to him that was making him do the stuff. It took me a while to get down all the layers to figure out, well, who started this? I like to find stimulus. I don't like to work on response. I don't trust response. I like to go way back.
But the thing is, I do believe that, yes, we've had past lives, et cetera, and we do carry trauma from certain events in that past life. That doesn't mean we come in with the attachments. We come in with the subconscious memories, and then we can pick up attachments or entities because of the way that we're operating, or that trauma that we're carrying in the subconscious. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I agree.
That is also, I do believe there are babies being born soulless, and has been for quite some time.
Well, the U.S. court system, the guy that got charged with Tupac's murder, if you listen to his sentence, the court system put him in for life without parole, and they put 600-700 years on top of that. Then when he gets reincarnated, they put him back in prison for another natural life, and they go on and on. So does the United States believe in reincarnation? Yes. And when they sentenced him, they wanted to make sure that when he came back in the afterlife, that he was not going to get out of prison. That shocked the world. That was very deep, because I don't think it's never been done, because a lot of people ask, well, they charge somebody 600-700 years. Is because, each element of the crime stipulates a certain degree of law that you can ask max number penalty of years, right? So if you're charged with all these crimes, right, all these incidents, and you get off 1, 2, and 3, you still got up to 7 other charges holding you in prison. So if those other 3 charges get dismissed, you're still liable for the remaining. But it was interesting because you're all talking about this, and a lot of people, they actually had that show. I can't remember what it is as we're wrapping up, where those kids that were under 10 years old saying that they were airplane fighter pilots in World War II. They were telling where they lived, how they died, and they were like, what the hell's going on? My kid's telling me he was doing. And they went back in history and pulling records, and they're like, yeah. And they were taking the kids across the world, and the kids were pointing out, this is where I lived, and this. And how can you explain that?
Well, they've slipped through. Like, mostly when we come back, we go through the veil of amnesia, and sometimes, like most things, not everything's 100%, is it? Like, some of them slip through without, being affected by that. So, and someone else has mentioned interdimensional magic and things. So, from my experience, really good shamans will always cover every dimension, past, present, future, parallels, underworld, midworld, overworlds, when they're doing retrievals, or when they're cleansing people of that type of stuff. But that's another department, isn't it? There's just so many different ones. You can't say yes or no to like that kind of question. It's not a yes or no question, because there are so many levels. Yeah.
Like, that's why I know you don't like it, but that's why I keep going back to the string theory. It's forever flowing, so you can't just do one chunk.
Well, no, but it's interdimensional. I know. What you're saying, well, I do believe in what you're saying about the string theory. It's just what's been shown to me is it's not linear. There's just so many dimensions that are interconnected, and you can slip through to dimensions by just being in a certain vibration, but you can also slip back as well, and often that will happen even within a day. So it's not Yeah, so I don't see it as string. So I always giggle when you say string theory, but it's because it's not what's been shown to me, like vision wise.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
to me, it's my way of visually seeing the energetics and the physics.
Yeah, and that works for you because your mind is working in that kind of format. I think for me, they've shown me another way that I could actually go, okay, I understand that, where I couldn't understand the linear way, but I can understand this other way. So there's no right or wrong in any of it. It's just how we see it or perceive it can be different from.
And whatever gives you an inside knowing and you're at peace with it, that's good. A cleansing is good as. Sorry?
You got to read it out loud for the audio. Are cleansings as good as protection spells? Asking for a friend. Crystal wants to know.
Well, you need to do both. You need to cleanse first and then protect.
Yeah, like protection is cleansing.
Yeah, you're not going to put your perfume on, then jump in the shower.
No. True.
That's just the easy way to break it down.
And the spells, not really into spells. Maybe different terminology, of the way you protect.
Magic comes with a price. You be very, very careful. I mean, we are doing spells every day. Words are spells, so be careful with your words. You can actually create a lot of, like my mother used to say, you're convicted by the words of your mouth. So you must be careful with your word because you can actually bring stuff upon yourself just by the way you say things. Or
I do it all the time.
But don't cast spells on other people. It has very bad repercussions. There is always a price to pay.
For every action there's a reaction. Sorry.
Hey?
So people never understand that.
There is they think it's I can't it just nut. It's just a nut. You just nut. You have no idea.
Nah. Like there's, for every action there's a reaction. You want to watch what you do because you won't like what's going to come back. Reaction, not action coming back. Reaction. Bang.
It's a price. There is always a price to pay.
Yep. And
you won't like it. You won't like the price. So don't do it. It's not worth it.
Back to this with the children. The lady just said she believes that everybody is born without any EVIL attached.
So in the biblical reference, all right, so that is a good question. So let's use that and run with it. So when you're born, you are pure. You come with no strings attached. You come as innocent as you can be. The world is the one that you are tainted with and become full of sin because of what you are brought up with and what you do and what you do with your life and how you do things.
But that can also trigger off the past life memories that are sitting in the subconscious or within your cellular DNA because it's passed down from
I can probably buy that. But when you're born, you're pure.
I believe that.
You start out with a clean slate.
Well, not always. Like, sorry to differ here, but like I was 4 and I was hung by this guy who was mentally challenged. He was born mentally challenged. Neither of us had a hope.
So in God's eye, right, mentally challenged people is a different slate. How can you hold somebody accountable with sin if they do not have the right marbles in the mind to understand what they are doing? So that's different.
Exactly. That's set up my
You cannot say people that do not accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, believe in the Father above, that you're not going to go to heaven, right? Because if they're not mentally capable of understanding the concept, then they already have a clean slate. And this is where people have a dispute. But if you read the biblical reference and understand how things work, that is true. So now we have, I'm not going to say who. Now he came on like 10 minutes ago, so we're getting ready to wrap up. No, it is good to be a devil's advocate, absolutely. So, because I love conversations. So, where the hell I was going with it? I saw devil's advocate and it's like, out
Yeah, same.
a brick.
Yeah, but it's like it doesn't matter what's happened to you. I just feel that at our core, there is the knowing of right or wrong, that we come in normally knowing right from wrong. It doesn't matter, what our upbringing has been or how unfair it was. At our core, we still know right from wrong, and we do make a choice then to either follow right or follow wrong. And we can blame what's happened to us, but at the bottom of it, we still know that if it's right or wrong.
So in my situation, I was only little, but for years and years and years and years after that, I felt guilty. I wasn't afraid or anything like that. I just felt guilty that this poor kid ended up locked up for the rest of his life, and the mother and father, they adopted him. They never could have children again. For years I carried that. Yeah, because I forgave him straight away, and because I was only little and he's just another person.
Then it's the proper thing to do. You should forgive other people's action regardless what they do. That's human decency.
Yeah,
Julianne's asking, have you worked with any, how you say that, ASCII records?
ASCII.
Have you ever encountered anyone able to access their own records, like being blocked?
I haven't done a lot of work on that at all. I understand it, but I haven't delved.
You would be blocked from because really, if you can tune into divine consciousness or higher self, you should be able to access your Akashic records. So sometimes you're not meant to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Liana wants to know, is there really sin? Yes, absolutely there's sin. There are 7 deadly sins that's been written. And you got the 10 Commandments and so forth, and biblical reference, right? So if you take the biblical reference out, and like I told the atheists when I was younger, if you take God out of the equation, and let's say that you live by the word of the good, and you die, you are fine. You're in heaven. But if you live by the word and you die, and there is not a heaven, you lived a good life. So it's twofold. So then somebody asks also, do you mean people who do not know right from wrong? No. What I refer to is people with disabilities, like severe autism, mentally handicapped, that's got a mind of a 5 or 7 or 8-year-old that don't know right from wrong, that cannot tie their shoes, and it's like a vegetable. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, that's what this guy was like.
Yes.
Super huge. It wasn't his fault.
Operating. In that case, they operate from the reptilian brain, which is about survival.
So
it's about survival. So all they're concerned about is their own survival. So that all their actions will be based on that.
Yeah, this guy was just pure touched.
Yeah, like you stop and think. If you look about how things happen throughout world history, if you were poor and you had kids, you couldn't afford kids, what did you do? You took them out in the woods, you left them. You let the animals eat them. You abandoned your children. They got rid of the kids. When you had kids that had disabilities and so forth, you put them and sent them away, either from society or into hospitals. It's where all the sanatoriums were back in the days, right? But if you look at history and how they took care of children, it's very graphic.
It's horrific.
It is. I mean, if they didn't want the kid, they would either kill the kid or leave it out in the woods and walk away. That was it. Dump it in a river, drop it off the bridge, and be gone. That's the way people dealt with it.
That's what nature does with things that aren't right when they're born. If they think that they do the same thing.
The borax guy, he just left, so I just want to make sure it's a long story. But I
Sorry
mean,
about that,
those
David.
are real good questions because a lot of people don't know, and that's good questions to ask to get people's opinions.
It
So
is. And like
yeah,
in other cultures and that, similar, if the person is RAPED, the lady, she's ostracized out of the village. You know, they have to live outside of the village. Or if one's husband dies, then the brother has to take over. It's complicated.
And a lot of shamans lived on the outskirts. They were not allowed in the
no,
villages.
it was it was a bad omen to have them in.
Yeah.
It really is. And you look at the human body, right? And this is where I talk to people off the record when they have miscarriages, and it's tragic and it's sad. However, that is your body rejecting something that is not right, and people don't understand that there is something wrong with the fetus.
Yeah,
And I know it's sad to discuss that, but there's
it
reasons
is.
why the body aborts it. And I'm not going to get into medical stuff. It's
It's
neither here
natural
for this
selection.
platform. But
Yeah.
is it trauma? Yeah. I mean, does it happen? Yes. But that's the natural way of the body to get rid of it.
Hey,
That's why they have the test now, whether you can find out before you have the pregnancy full term,
yeah,
whether you're going to keep it or abort it. So
yeah. Can I ask something? It's a horrible question. It goes back to religion.
sure.
I'm really sorry about this. It could bring up a lot of problems for everybody, but it might also help. In some situations, if a person is RAPED and they become pregnant and they then ABORT, religiously, are they ever forgiven?
So I'll say this, right? And a lot of people don't understand this. There have been serial killers that have been seen in heaven. And people are like, how's that possible? Because if you follow biblical reference and you ask for forgiveness, then the blood of Jesus will wash the sins away. Now that's twofold. For example, if I do something right and it's bad and I ask for forgiveness, I am cleansed by reference. However, if I keep doing the same thing over and over, is he really gonna forgive me? No. You
No.
have to be sincere and deeply honest and change your ways. Then will be forgiven. See, that's the catch. See, and this is where I have differences with people's religions because some things people can do things and get clean and go out and do the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. It's just it's not how it works. So that's a good question, though.
Sorry, I didn't like to ask that because
No.
I know people will like continue to hurt themselves for a long, long time. Yeah, I know.
Well,
Um,
here's the problem I have, and this will be the last statement we'll make because this is pretty bad. In
yeah.
America,
Sorry, everyone.
you can do what you want and go to the drugstore and get the 24-hour pill, and you don't have to worry about it. Now, what kind of message are you sending to society?
No, I
Okay,
don't. Yeah, I agree. I
ladies
don't.
and gentlemen, I'm sorry. I'll make it publicly announcement. I don't agree with that.
Same.
You know,
I
if you play, you pay. There are things out there that will save you the headache. It ain't my problem or fault that you did what you did and you ended up in that position.
Well, that's a whole can of worms right
Yes, it
there
is.
and then, because we all know, and that's stuff we can't actually talk about because there is an agenda with all of that.
Well, now Penny Van, that's totally different. I'm just talking about people that just like, oh, I'm gonna go to the drugstore and get my pill.
yeah,
I
have a
don't agree
few
with
drinks, pop a pill the next day. No responsibility
So-
whatsoever.
that. You know,
Sorry,
I have morals, and that's where I stand.
I'm the
You
same
know,
on
I
that.
was raised from abstinence and all that other stuff, and you know, people say, well, Grizzly, times change. Well, your times has and mine hasn't. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I'm the same, Grizz. I'm a bit cutthroat on that one.
Sticking to it.
I mean, I'm just being truthful.
Same.
So
think-
I don't kiss on the first date either. So don't even try.
Me either.
That's too much information.
So
I made this poor guy divorce his wife before I'd go out with him. I stuck to it. He divorced her.
yeah, Penny Van, it's really sad, and it's very disturbing. And then you got people that fight for certain rights. Wait a minute, hold up. Let's talk about rights. They're not your rights to fight for because you're the one that put yourself in that position. Now, there are some extensions, circumstances that are outside people's control. That's different.
Yeah.
Now, we enacted something here in Kentucky, which I applied for. However, it's still dispelling, is they have baby boxes. I don't know if you ever heard that before. They are boxes at fire stations where if you have a child, you no longer want that child, you can go to that fire station and put that baby inside that box and walk away. No strings attached. And within 30 seconds, it gives you time to walk away, and alarms go off inside, and they come down, grab the baby, and they take it from there.
Another problem with cleansing.
The reason why they did that, they got tired of finding babies in dumpsters and finding babies being murdered. So that was their thing to solve that. Now, however, now there are some good stories for people that could not have children that have adopted them. Yes.
Yeah.
But once again, you know, how do you solve one problem by starting creating another, right? So, but it's twofold.
And, you know, you explain to the one when they try to find out where they came from and they find, oh, yeah, I was put in a box and left in a, you know, and then you explain, well, the people that adopted you really, really wanted you, and, you know, it goes on. But it still hurts.
It's, you know, when I look at society as a whole today, it's very appalling in a lot of ways how people act and do things.
It is.
And it's not getting any better. And people want to do this and that and want, you know, and it's just like, why, right?
Don't you think that's because no one is held responsible for their actions anymore?
Here's the problem. People are afraid to hold people accountable because of the backlash.
Yeah. I know.
It's crazy days. And until we return to some form of, you know, enforcement of proper rules and regulations for the right reasons, it's out of control. Like, people are not even responsible for their own stupidity anymore. And let's face it, there's a lot of silliness out there.
But they're not learning respect and common courtesy and the basics of humanity. You know, they're glued to a techno tracker.
They're also not learning to be accountable either.
That makes it 100 times worse as well. You know, like you've got the sentencing up here. I know I better be careful.
It's like, you know, you can go do that, but you prepared for the consequences of your actions. But unfortunately, these days, the consequences don't add up to the crime.
No, and like the amount of time that you get for doing a certain thing compared to the amount of time you get done for, say, murder, the murderers and the RAPE is nothing. Like the other charges of, say, burglary, you know, other things like that, attempted murder and that, they're higher than RAPE. So
well, we've had
where the world went wrong was worried about people's feelings instead of doing the right thing.
It's terrible. We've had one here in Western Australia where a guy was sent to jail. He was a rapist, raped a 5-year-old. He tried to kill her by bashing her head in with a rock. He was in jail. He's been let out by a judge with $800,000 of NDIS funding.
Yeah, that's
explain that. I mean, how is that holding someone accountable for their actions?
And statistics proves that he'll go back and do something again.
and he's getting government money to do it. It's ridiculous, and that's a actual ongoing thing here recently.
The other sadness is someone else will take care of it, and then they will end up paying.
Nobody wants to be the bad guy.
No, unless you're the parent, and then what do? You've got to behave yourself. Look, Michelle, have you seen those at the beginning of the show before Grizzly was cracking the funnies? We were talking about those black-eyed ones. Have you had any experience with the little children, the black-eyed ones?
I've never. I caught a little bit of that, and they were talking about like just children coming to your door with black eyes, which sounded a bit scary. I don't know where in the world that was. But yes, I have experienced a child who was black-eyed, and he lived in my house for 18 months. It was the worst time of my life, and there was nothing I could do to. I mean, it was scary. It was like, yeah. Like,
I know what we're going to open up on the next show on Cath then. With your story.
What? The what?
So, with your story.
My story?
Yes. We got to know about this one.
Oh, no, it was terrible. I actually ended up with PTSD from that, and a whole lot of, and being, like, I believe in God and Jesus and all of that stuff. So I did everything that I possibly could as a God-fearing person who believed that everyone has a chance and there's good in everybody, and it backed me so badly.
How old were you?
He was 8 by the time he came to me, 7 I think, but that was gosh,
you would have been what, 20 something?
No, this was
recently.
This was in New South Wales. He was part of the foster system.
All right, we have to call it a night. We're already encroaching on somebody else's time on their channel.
And sorry, David, I don't know what happened. And anyone that's got any dowsing questions, just sing out.
Yeah, David, next time you come on time. So we'll catch you next time. And you got to tell us about this. So that's pretty interesting.
It's my heart races every time I even think about it. It's taken a long time to get over it.
But hopefully a lot of people learn some stuff tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, if you got questions, don't be bashful.
Yeah, no,
good conversation is good conversation. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you. I don't know. I'll find it.
Yeah,
I'm not a know-it-all, but between us three, we'll figure it out somehow. So
there's so many levels to everything, and layers, and there's no. I don't believe there's a right or wrong question for anything. I think there's just like a multitude of.
Yeah, like who knows? None of us know 100%. So the more we share, the better. The more we can find out in a safe place where there's no judgment.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's saying another interesting show. Good night, everybody. And
Thanks,
from
everyone.
coast to coast and around the world,
Thanks,
everybody
Michelle.
have a good night and Godspeed. We'll catch you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care. Thanks.